And we are live, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, show 25.
Wow.
And we're getting through it, Dave. It's crazy, you know. Once again, guys, we're live all over, not only Twitch and YouTube, but also Periscope and Mixer. So no matter how you are listening to us, do leave a comment in below if you're listening to on YouTube. But if you're watching live, leave a comment now on in the chat, and we'll be able to see it right here. So we do want to hear from you because that's what this whole show's about. It's about looking backwards, sometimes in the present, but most times looking back. Today we have a review, or re-review, of ECW's One Night Stand from 2006. But, Dave, you texted me yesterday going, hey, there's a pay-per-view on tonight. And I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not the only one that forgot about that. I remember,
Completely forgot.
I remembered on the Saturday because that's what I thought it was. And it's actually on a Sunday, and I was like, oh man, that's actually this week. We didn't talk about that, but we did watch it. So we're actually going to talk about NXT in your house, or NXT Takeover in your house as well, this week. So a bunch to actually get through. I think this is the first WWE content we've actually done in a while. Now we're doing two segments from it. So before we get into that, Dave, how are you doing, man? How are things? How's this increasingly insane world? Intriguing.
I mean, it's just a joy-filled world, really.
Oh god,
I just feel happiness all around.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Every time we're coming, you know what's going to happen one day is we're going to do the show, and there will be a fire outside my house, and you're just like, everything's fine, and we're talking about guys pretending to fight while the world is burning down. So yeah, guys, that's what we're here for. We're here to bring a little bit of joy into an otherwise crazy and increasingly terrifying world. But we're also on Phoenix FM, guys, so yeah, enjoy that too. That's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. if you are interested, and also on the True Penny channel. Thanks to the guys there for sorting that out. But before we get into it, quick plug for the network. We have a new mascot, nerdtoknowmedia Chan. If you guys have seen her, she's great. Katie from Doing It For The Exposure did that, and also of Nerd to Know Basis. Loads of shows coming out. I think we have a full roster now of all the shows. So if you guys are haven't for some reason checked out the rest of the shows, do go over and check out everything on YouTube, because you're missing out if you haven't. An absolute plethora of content, all different kind of stuff. And we also do another show as well, all about aliens, conspiracies, and wild things. We don't know what our third topic is going to be, but we're probably going to go back to that Donald Trump is a time travel thing. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, do. It's the wildest thing I've ever experienced. It really is.
It only gets better the more you read.
Exactly. It gets more plausible the more you read, and that's the scary part. You're like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound as crazy as you think it is. But yeah, do check that out if you guys haven't for some reason. It's a lot of fun. But Dave, where do you want to start, man? Do you want to start with Takeover, or do you want to go for ECW?
Oh man, let's start with Takeover. I think that's fresh.
Okay.
It's on my mind. I just watched it a couple hours ago. Finished it like an hour and a half ago. So.
Oh well, you're same as me. I watched it there while I was finished up in work. I'm like, yeah, I was gonna watch this because I was actually gonna. Here's the thing, right? Funny story, true story. Last night I was like, right, I'm gonna go to this again. This is something that won't mean anything to American viewers or listeners, but will for anyone who is a wrestling fan this side of the world. So I was like, right, I can stay up late and watch it, or I can go to bed early. I'm like, you know what? I worked the weekend. I'm going to go to bed early. So I turned on Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Actually, a really apt game when you think about it. Sorry. And I was I was playing it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I look at my watch and I'm like, it's 2 a.m. Takeover's over. Crap. I could have just watched Takeover. So yeah, that was my like mess up, because you're so used to watching the 4-hour WWE shows. You're like, alright, cool, it's over 4 a.m. I didn't realize I forgot it was a 2-hour event kind of thing, you know, like a nice enjoyable experience. And yeah, so I ended up watching it today just after the tail end of work. So I really enjoyed it. It's super fresh. I loved everything about the presentation. I think it was the most fun I've had watching a pay-per-view in a while. The performance, even like without the last chance backlot brawl, the actual performance center being decked out with a stage, which I believe is the In Your House stage, like it's the real one, or at least a very good replica of the old one. And look, I have to say, and we've been saying this for years, and I've been a big proponent of this, the difference that a real stage makes is huge. Like, I know it's kind of silly, right? But it's also not. Like, it gave it a completely different feel. Like, yeah, they have the big LED screens and all that kind of stuff, and that's great, but it all kind of looks the same. And actually having this unique, weird looking show that doesn't look like anything else really, really helped it. And I think this is something that WWE should really bring back. Now, it's probably because it costs a lot of money, but it's worth it. It really is. Like, from the get-go, you're like, wow, this feels completely different. Like, the opening package, the little comedy skits where they're making fun of old technology, like the old 900 numbers. They brought back the lad who actually used to do the In Your House shows. You're like,
that was unexpected. That was a good touch.
That was crazy. I'm like, WWE, man, you know, you're really knocking this out of the park. This is what we've been missing for ages. Some kind of, you know, they used to do with the Raw shows, but it was always kind of like halfway. It wasn't fully. This felt like they kind of plucked it. It was like, you know, when you're playing SmackDown, not 2K19, and you boot up an old arena. That's kind of what it felt like. You're actually just watching this happen, and it was a really, really cool idea. And I wish WWE, I want this to be a thing every year, where they have this. And you know, Backlash, for example. Remember the swinging axes?
Oh yes,
yeah. Yes. It's like, bring that back. That was cool. Now, you won't be able to do it in the Performance Center, but maybe bring it back next year. But stuff like this is really good. This is what, even before the bell rung, this was already like a 4 out of 10 for me before anything happened. Which is like, this is great.
Is that a Bret Hart reference?
Well, he can have it. He's a 4 out of 10 wrestler. But Ian's gone mad. He's like, oh my god, I do, because he loves Bret Hart. But I just don't.
I like Bret Hart too.
I don't. He just no.
I mean, you know, but yeah, you're completely right. Like, these, oh man, they're so unique, and we used to get these for every pay-per-view.
Every pay-per-view, yeah.
And now it's every WrestleMania we get a themed WrestleMania kind of, but it's not.
It's not the same. Like
it sets the shows apart from just being, you know, an extra Raw, basically.
Yeah. And that's a great point. Like, that's what the pay-per-views felt like for a long time. They just felt like a really, really long Raw with slightly better matches. And that's just, you know, that was very tiresome, and that was one of the biggest problems. I think yourself and myself covering it week to week, ad nauseum, and then, you know, either doing a podcast or whatever on it, it got very tiresome because it was very hard to break up that monotony of, okay, now it all kind of looks the same. Oh, Cena's winning. Okay, Punk's doing this, blah, blah, blah. And for years, it was just the same kind of thing over and over again, where they'd slightly change the picture up on top of the ramp. And that's just not good enough. You know, no, like, look, it made sense. They had no competition because TNA weren't competition. And they were like, well, look, we're not going to spend this money. This is when they got rid of the pyro and everything. So it was like, this is just terrible. The house shows are more entertaining presentation-wise because it looked different, yes. You know? And again,
man, I hate when they get rid of pyro because it happens in cycles. They get rid of pyro to save money, and then they realize, oh, we need to bring it back because the fans really like pyro. Yeah. I mean, even AEW is not giving up on pyro when there's no people in the crowd.
Because it's part of the presentation of the show.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wrestling is... look, this has proved it. Even though I kind of like the no fan thing, it does lose something. Yeah. And it makes it look like a weird stage play. Actually, there was a good... you watch Black Mirror, don't you?
The first 3 seasons.
Okay.
I haven't watched season 4 yet.
Season 4 is okay. It's very Americanized, but I think it has 1 or 2 really, really good episodes that I would recommend. Have you seen...
Well, I definitely want to watch the Miley episode.
The Miley episode is great, and not to cross too much into conspiracy land, but, you know, if you listen to that show, you know about Monarch programming, so, yeah, it's a thing.
Should. Yeah, there's a reason that the writer of Black Mirror said, I'm going to hold off on the next season for a little bit because the world's
experiencing it. And there's an ad actually in London where it's like Black Mirror season 5 is playing out all around you and it's a mirror. It's like, that's weird. But yeah, the writer Charlie Booker, he's actually like really cool. But he does a show, like a comedy show of like a rewind of the year or whatever. And he did one during this situation of TV, what it's been like. And he's like, even wrestling is still a thing. and he talks about WrestleMania, and he's like, it's like some weird stage play. And out of context, it's weird. In context, it's weird, but out of context, it's really weird. And you can't defend it. You're like, yeah, it's exactly what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like.
Just is what it is.
But yeah, that aside, you know, another thing about the presentation is this is the first pay-per-view that I've watched with a crowd. Because they have a crowd now, and it's not really a crowd. It's like whoever they have around the performance center that they like go on out and, you know, cheer. And you do have the plastic up, which makes it now look like rollerball. I feel like we're living in rollerball.
Well, it's ice hockey for me. It's very ice hockey.
Man, it's like the world is becoming a dystopia, and like we're starting to like live in sci-fi dystopia. If Paul Heyman starts commentating again and Slipknot show up, oh my god, Slipknot do the actual title track for NXT. We are in rollerball.
There you go. It's already here. It's happened.
It's already happened.
Just have to get used to it.
Oh my god!
You know, I love those though. I like
it too.
The hockey ring.
I like it too. I think it's great. They need to keep that. Like, to be fair, this may have like changed the way things are done, but
yeah,
it's really brought some cool little elements to make it look completely different. And those little plastic things, when they incorporated it by going through it and stuff, it like there's so much more toys now to play with that they never had before, purely because they never thought about it. And now they're like, wait, we can do all these things? Cool, let's do all these things. And
that's what I love about it. It's a built-in prop that you can use. It makes sound louder by banging against it, so you get that extra rumble.
Exactly.
Makes it seem like there's even more fans in the audience. I mean, I think for this quarantine or whatever it is now, it's awesome. I think it totally adds to the spectacle in a bizarre way.
It's crazy. Like, you know, WWE, through their determination and other means, have actually been able to keep going. And
we'll leave it at that.
And we'll leave it at that. But what's funny about it is it's like they've actually kind of like redesigned how wrestling is kind of done and presented. AEW were a little bit ahead of them with, you know, having actual wrestlers around with because they're faction based. But this is a really cool kind of little workaround. And to be fair, if this is what we're going to get going forward until, I would say probably until, we'll see. We'll see what's going on, because things might change very quickly in 2 or 3 weeks, based on its life. So we'll see what happens, and mass gatherings can go back way sooner. They might not, but we'll have to find out. But until that happens, we have this new way of which actually gets rid of a lot of the problems. It gets rid of the pornographic sounds of female wrestling, the over grunting of male wrestling. And the dead silence of promos, which I still kind of like, because I'm like, this is like you're watching a weird like modernist stage play. But it you know, for wrestling fans, they need something a bit more wrestling, and that includes an audience. So this is a great workaround. Fair play to Triple H and the whole team for actually coming up with this and being like, right, this works. So
wait, you don't enjoy these phenomenal actors going out and giving monologues straight into the camera for 10 minutes?
I like it. I love it. I think it's great. But other people are like, this is terrible. I'm like, it is. But so is The Room. And I love The Room. So this is fine.
Fair.
You know, and it's a great time capsule, because this happened and this is real, and look what wrestling did.
And that's what I love about this. I absolutely love the fact that we have this, like you said, time capsule that we're going to be able to look back on this time next year and go, there was a weird time in wrestling. And it also coincides with what's usually my favorite wrestling time of the year, which is your end of May and then your June and your July. Because historically, that's when the WWE will take a risk. They'll give the belt to a guy that they don't normally give the belt to. They'll give pushes to guys that normally you probably wouldn't even hear about. And they'll let certain people take time off so they're not in the spotlight. So usually this is a really experimental time in the WWE.
Yeah.
And now you throw on the fact that they're forced to experiment. It might take away from some of those types of risks, but I mean, still, wrestling is completely unpredictable right now.
But see, it's great because it hasn't been. It's been terrible, and I feel horrible because we were subjected to it for 10 years straight of just watching garbage week after week. And poor Adam, he got burnt out from it. Which is, it's true. Like, that was the worst time period to watch wrestling, was what we were when we were in the wrestling media for real. You know, instead of now.
That was our World War.
Yeah, exactly. That was what we lived through. And it was, you know, I feel like now I'm kind of envious because I'm like, wow, you guys are actually getting to see really, really interesting, earth-shattering moves pretty much week to week. And I'm not talking about in the ring.
Yeah.
I literally just mean the business is so wild and unpredictable that it's actually fun to cover. And I'm really grateful that we have this platform and we have this show, because we get now to sit back at a distance almost and be like, right, here's what's going on, and look back at some stuff that we necessarily didn't get to cover initially. But, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a circle in hell probably near, you know, it was off to the side when Dante and Virgil were walking around, that you have to watch 2009 to 2016 wrestling on a loop, and that's it forever. That's what I'm pretty sure.
There was one good period. We had the summer of Punk
until
Kevin Nash showed up.
Yeah, we did, but that's what I mean. All the good stuff was ruined eventually for no reason. So yeah, no, it was what it was. But I have to say, this pay-per-view, if you had to said to me, look, we're gonna have a not only are we gonna have an in your house pay-per-view, but it's gonna be NXT. Not only is it gonna be NXT, but they're gonna bring back a stage. Mm-hmm. I would have been like, no way, that's just not a thing. And they did. And not only that, so straight away, the presentation, the unique feel of it, bringing back some fans and having a bit of a crowd there. The commentary was great, presentation was great. But then the matches were unreal. It just was a really, really fun time to be a wrestling fan and just sit back and go, this is really good. The opener was really cool. That was
my favorite. That might have been my favorite match of the night, actually. For those who are watching on YouTube or any of the other video platforms, behind me today is Tegan Knox, because my goodness, did I become a fan of hers last night. And that was halfway through the match. That was prior to her win. And then I started looking her up and reading about her background and the injuries that she's had to go through, having to pull out of the Mae Young Classic a couple times. She is a talent that I am glad that they did not give up on because of injuries or things like that. Because when you find somebody that can do a 450 off the turnbuckle to the outside, they're in my book as a wrestler I'm going to like.
Dave's just like, I love the indies.
I just need to see flips.
I just like flips. That's all I want.
Eric's like, how did she? Yeah, that's how. It was that one move. I went, all right, new fan.
It was all the flips all the time, and it's just like, but look, I loved it too. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I didn't like this match. This match, while it wasn't my favorite match tonight, it had the best moments in it, I think, from in-ring competition. Purely, like, usually because 6 people tag team matches are terrible usually because it's very lazy and sloppy. This wasn't. This was completely opposite. This was like almost a tornado tag team match at some points. All the women were in the ring at one point. All the women were outside the ring at some point. It was crazy. It was really, really good. And it wasn't that long either. It was a nice 10-minute match. So they all got in to do what they needed to do, told a pretty good story. Tegan Knox got over. Big fan of her. I'm going to be watching her as well because it's weird. She kind of looks like a lot of the women who've come through wrestling before. She has that very exactly. You can see that she has a very marketable face, and look, but she also kills it in the ring as well. So it's just like definitely one to watch. Dave, good shout. Out of everyone there, I'd say she's definitely the MVP of the night for me. That's how we start.
I gotta highlight something when I see it. I gotta highlight it, because
most definitely.
And this is another thing about writing in that era that we were just talking about is there is not a time when I would have found myself saying,
"Yeah, I am."
Wow, the women won. I'm
doing
the night
a show
that just wasn't a reality that we lived in. There were good matches here and there, but oh my goodness. I thought that was just a fun opener. I'm not making it out to be like it was some phenomenal match, but it did what an opening match of a pay-per-view is supposed to do. And so the women opened it with a great match that I loved, and they ended it with a great match that I loved. And I know that that's the first pay-per-view in history I've ever felt that way about, including the all-women's pay-per-view.
Yeah, well, look, that's because, while that was done as kind of like a backhanded compliment for, hey, we're going to this repressive regime where women are banned, but hey, don't feel bad about it because here's your own pay-per-view. It's like, that's not as good as we're going to put on this great show and we're going to end it and start it the best way possible.
Well, if you want great, Derek, just remember next Sunday night we get the greatest match ever.
Stop. Oh my god. We haven't even talked about that, and I don't know how to. I'm like...
I saw that ad for the first time. I was like, there's no way that's what they're calling it.
No, it is. And they've been doing this for a while, like on the Observer.
We're talking about Randy Orton and Edge, by the way. We're having a match at Backlash next Sunday.
Yeah, okay. We'll transition there a bit for a second, because we have to talk about it. Yeah, the Observer kind of had a big rant on this as well, and I'm like, I agree. There's no way that could ever be possible. Like, it's Randy Orton and Edge. Don't get me wrong.
They're great.
Big fan of Randy Orton. Big fan of Edge. Well, AJ Styles isn't there, and it's not 10 years ago in TNA. So it's just like, no. This is not, no. Like, what, call it anything else. Greatest match of the year? Okay. Greatest match of the week? Probably. Greatest match? Dumb. Really dumb. Really dumb.
An odd marketing tactic. It's not even after the match, but I mean, they've been doing this, right? We've been having the greatest tag team in the world crowned in Saudi Arabia and the greatest wrestler with Shane McMahon. And I don't know why this is their gimmick the past couple of years, but this is just what they're swinging for the fences to establish this as some greatness, or it's going to be better than, tell me that they're not influenced by having some competition.
Yeah, but like, there's having competition, and then there's, headbutting the wall and thinking they're winning. And that's what they're doing. Like, they set themselves up here to fail. Like, if this isn't the greatest match of all time, everyone's going to hate the pay-per-view purely because they're look. I'm going to just
so silly.
I'm just going to let
weird conversation this is. I know.
I'm just going to let everybody in on a secret in life. All right, no matter if it's your job or your whatever, expectation is key, right? If you expect something and it's not met, you're going to be peeved off, right? You go into, I don't know, Burger King, and they serve you chicken, like KFC chicken. You're going to be like, what is this? This is weird. I didn't expect this. If you're watching Star Wars, this is the thing with the Star Wars movies. If you're expecting Star Wars and your expectations subverted, you're going to be very upset because you were not expecting that.
Nice word choice.
Yeah, and this is like a rule. Like, when you're dealing with customers, or if you are serving a product to a customer, they expect something, and your job is to manage that. So by having this, it's going to be the greatest match of all time, it better feckin' be the greatest match of all time, or else it's going to fail out of the gate. So good luck. Good luck, WWE.
That's why.
You just, there was no reason for that. But I suppose it sounds better than greatest match you'll see this week, because that's less.
Is that
that's
like
less.
what does that mean to every match on the card besides it though? Like, how does the booking team handle this? Okay, guys, listen. You got to make sure your match isn't better than Randy Orton and Edge,
So
no matter what you do.
It was just sitting there, like, well, is AJ on the card? Because his match is probably going to be better than that. And it's just like,
I don't know. He wasn't in. Who knows? And that's not even the main event. That's what blows my mind. Shouldn't the main event of a show always be the best match of the show? And thus, I
don't know. I can't believe they all sat around and said, "Yeah, we did it, guys. We've won wrestling." It's like, no, you didn't.
You
just set yourself up to fail. So, good luck. That's all I can say. That's bad news. But yeah, I can't believe we didn't talk about. I'm amazed you've only just seen that now, like the last week.
Somehow I managed to tune out sometimes of like the weekly shows.
How did you miss the memes? The memes have been going for like a month.
I didn't spend enough time on Reddit.
Oh my god,
work was crazy.
Fair. It's so funny. It's so funny. Like,
wow. Hold on. There's no way that Edge vs Orton is going to possibly be better than Braun Strowman defending his title against The Miz and John Morrison.
Oh, that's gonna suck. I'm so glad we don't have
Wait, I'm looking at this card. To be fair,
Edge
vs Orton will be the best match. They've assured that.
Oh, yeah, no. That makes sense. I haven't seen the card, and that makes sense now. If they're just setting up a card to fail. I'll be like December to Dismember. Because that only had one good match as well, and that wasn't even advertised. It just kind of happened on the night. Jeez.
Oh man, do you know that that Elimination Chamber match.
Yeah.
The original plan for it was Paul Heyman wanted the Big Show to get eliminated immediately.
So Punk could win.
Yeah.
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 And it would have made more sense. People would have went home happy with that.
Yeah, they would have.
But
it would have been unique. It would have showcased a lot of new talent, a lot of young talent.
You know,
what are we talking? 2006?
2006. It's actually, like, speaking of the thing that we're going to talk about after the break is how that started and then what it became. We're going to try and we might touch on that actually at some point. What happened with ECW and the failure of why it went. But you know, let's focus on the good here, not the sad, because there's a lot of it. Yeah, but look, we might talk about the greatest match ever or whatever they're calling it, but you know, it's not going to be good, guys. Just lower your expectations.
We're going to be talking about one of the greatest matches of all time later in this podcast.
Exactly.
Good luck.
Exactly. But yeah, I really enjoyed Finn Balor and Damian Priest. I thought Finn looked great. Really, really good return to form there. Damian Priest, he's cool. Yeah. They're getting over that he's supposed to be like Scott Hall, and when I was watching the match, I'm like, he really does wrestle like Scott Hall. Like, very much has that kind of mannerism down, and also his moveset is very. When Scott Hall wrestles, I always kind of see him like. I had this action figure that the leg broke when I was a kid, so he always had to like, because he could do the outsider's edge, you know, but. You had to move him.
Are you sure that wasn't your? No, I'm not even gonna say it.
No, but you just had to, you had to squeeze the leg and you throw him down, because WCW actually had like some incredible action figures when you compared to WWE's one until like relatively recently, and yeah, like just when you move him around, I was just thinking, yeah, like that is kind of how Scott Hall wrestles because he's so tall and lanky, and that it's like one of the only times where an action figure actually like mirrors that to a T. But that's what Damian Priest kind of reminds me of when I'm watching him wrestle. Some good action inside and outside the ring. Finn won. I was ecstatic.
I really liked that match, though. There's one spot I liked is when they were setting up the stairs for what would eventually be basically near the end of the match.
Yeah,
they incorporated into a move where Damian Priest hit what was it? It was like a side slam onto the apron on Finn Balor, and I thought that was fantastic because it wasn't like they were just setting up the stairs for one spot or they were telegraphing that they were going to use it later. I wasn't sure at that point. Yeah. I wasn't expecting them to. And then when he teased had the razor's edge off the apron on, I just like, Finn will take this bump. I know he's crazy enough. Please don't do it.
Yeah.
It's the thought that was going through my head.
I had a similar thing at the end when he went for the second coup de grace. And, Moralo was like, oh, he's gone on emotion. Is he going to hit it? And usually that means he's going to miss it. And, but, this being a competent product, it actually just, was setting up the finish, which was great. But this is it. Like, I forget how good NXT pay-per-views are because it's been a while since I've actually watched one. And, it was great. For all the things that you'd normally be like, WWE is terrible for, they don't do. And it's just like, it's really actually kind of infuriating when you sit down and you're like, this is better than everything else, including AEW. Why isn't this just wrestling?
Why isn't this?
Yeah, exactly. It's WWE have it there, and they only show it like every now and then. You know what it is? It's like in Ireland we have the Book of Kells in Trinity College, and every day they put a different. It's a Bible, but it's like a really fancy Bible, right? Mm-hmm. And every day they move a page so people can read it. And that's kind of like what NXT is like. Every now and then they're like, look at this great thing that we have, show it to everybody, and then it goes away for a little while. It's like, what are you doing? Like, bring that back. This is important, and that's kind of what it's like every time I see it.
That's cool. That's a cool comparison.
Yeah, well, that's what it's kind of like, Keith Lee and Johnny Gargano. I really like both these guys. Keith Lee is like scarily good.
Freaky. He should not be able to move the way he moves.
I don't know.
I've been watching him, I guess, for 4 or 5 years now, especially his time in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And man, I'm still astounded every time I see him wrestle.
Yeah, he's like
I saw him do a Hurricanrana one time, just to give you guys like some perspective here.
A guy that big should not be able to do what he's able to do. But then he not only like the speed and agility, but then when he needs to really bring that big man spots, he's able to do that too.
Yeah, because he has a baby face.
Yeah.
But he's able to make himself fall into that like egotistical, narcissistic type of character
At
of
the
the
same
bask
time.
in his glory that you're able to buy into it when he wants to be mean and ferocious. So he's not just like a one-dimensional type of character. If you will.
He's like even if they were to use him in one role purely by his moveset and what he's able to do, he would overcome it, which is a very rare thing to see in any wrestling promotion. So he's always a treat to see. And working with Johnny Gargano is, this was always going to be a good match. This was a fantastic match. This was my match of the night, actually, because I like both these guys an awful lot. So fair play to Keith Lee for retaining. But Johnny Gargano I think he's actually better chasing the belt than holding it, which is
and I love, you know what else I love? I love that this match had a storyline behind it, and that the storyline was something really mundane, because we used to get that all the time in wrestling. We used to get super mundane types of storylines, like, oh, he stole a sandwich from me in front of the line when we were at the catering table or something. And that's exactly what this did. It was, they had the table for 3 thing that they put on the network and said they did table for 2. And it was just a very simple reason to have a feud.
So to break the fourth wall, that was my dog that came in. It was one of my dogs, one of my border collies, and he wants to know when he's going to get walked. So I will walk him afterwards. But yeah, 100%, man. I agree.
We're actually having a dog kennel match at Derek's house in tribute of the Big Boss Man.
Imagine. I love the Big Boss Man a lot, so that's one thing. But actually, we've already covered a lot of the hardcore stuff, so we're gonna have to limit ourselves on that before we go back and look
before
at
we continue on and cover a hardcore.
No. There's a difference. There's a difference between the hardcore division and then ECW One Night Stand. But
was that match part of the hardcore division, or was that match just?
No, it was for the hardcore belt.
Of course it was. Yeah. I just watched the DVD.
Yeah. But before we move on, actually, I wasn't a big fan of the Karrion Kross match. It was okay. It was way too short. I
kind of liked seeing Ciampa beat up, though.
Oh yeah,
I kind of liked seeing him not be a super monster for once.
He needed to be, and the way he was beaten as well really set that up. I thought it was good, but I think it was like an opening salvo for a bigger feud. So that's why
they have it marked at 6 minutes and 10 seconds, so it was very quick.
It was quick.
Borderline squash.
The main event was phenomenal. Listen, all I can say about this is if you haven't seen this match, go see the match. Rhea Ripley is one of my favourite wrestlers. And she's not even done yet. She's not even peaked.
No, she has a lot of growth to go. And I mean that in a great way.
Oh, in a great way. She's just an absolute... Becky's... I was talking to this with Keith the other day, and we both love Paige because we were watching the OSW review of... Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen OSW's review of Paige, Vanity Googling herself, it's hilarious. And their OSW are reviewing her movie. But yeah, we were saying how much we love Paige and how great she actually is in the ring. And it's like, yeah, Becky's the same. Becky's very much of the same ilk. I would say Rhea Ripley's also there too, where she has all these tools. But she's still very young and she's still very inexperienced. But give her 2 or 3 years, man, and she'll be up there where Becky Lynch was. So.
Oh wow, yeah, she's only 23.
Yeah, she is not. She's not old at all. That's what I mean. She reminds me so much of early Paige. The only difference is we're seeing her a lot quicker than we did with Paige, and she's reaching those goals now in a time where she's not competing against the perception that women's wrestling is bad. She's competing against oh, look at all these amazing talents which I need to wrestle. And that's why we're seeing this, and that's why, as good as this show was, the best match went on last.
Yeah.
Io Shirai as well. Love Io Shirai. So good. So good.
Genius of the Sky. I said, no, she's not going to live up to that moniker.
No, she did.
Well, wow.
She did. It's like, the way, what was it? Pac is the man, the gravity forgot. Nothing.
Yeah.
Io Shirai just does things that is out of this world. So, look, if you haven't seen this match, that's all we can say. Watch it. Watch it.
There's a quality that certain wrestlers have. AJ has it, Styles, where when he does a match, he knows how to extend his body to make moves look more graceful. And I mean, the genius of the Sky has it. Yep. Even when she jumps up on the turnbuckle to do a moonsault back, she kind of crouches in a unique position. That's what I love. I love when your character bleeds through into your moveset. And she didn't just fall off the top of a house. Wait, that's a hilarious statement. She didn't just fall off the top of a house.
Yeah.
She really leapt up and extended and made that so much more impressive than it would have been.
It's like, you know, when RVD used to do, for anyone who hasn't seen it, when RVD used to do the frog splash. That's what it's like. She wrestles like a really good RVD. RVD, but better. You know, it's like
I don't know if that's possible.
Well, you know, but that's what I mean. Like, she's such a good talent, and again, she doesn't have the years of, she doesn't have the mileage on her. She doesn't have the body damage or you know the other extracurricular activities that RVD did on her. So
no,
she's
30. I mean, this is her prime.
Exactly.
For somebody who's 5'1.5" and barely over 100 pounds. Wow,
man, but she brings the fire, and that's the main thing. But listen, before we move over to ECW, what did you? I wasn't expecting this backlot brawl to be a cinematic match, but it was.
No,
it was also
well,
had a
it
ring.
was, but it wasn't.
Had a ring, which was weird because backlot brawls usually don't have a ring. So this was a different one for me. Like, what did you think about this going into it?
You know, this is funny. You know what my lasting impression was? And you already mentioned the Star Wars references earlier, so I might as well just say it.
Yeah.
I started cursing off J.J. Abrams at one point because there was so much lens glare. I couldn't take it.
There was, but again, it made sense in universe from the way they were shooting it. All the light came from the ring of circles, and usually like the Eddie Guerrero John Cena match. That was pretty much just a match, but it looked more like they would shoot WWE. This, they were going for like a cinematic approach, and I loved it. It actually felt like I was watching. It felt like I wasn't watching WWE. I'll be honest with you. It felt like I was watching something else.
We didn't get the soundtrack this time. No. Instead, we got commentary. But this time, I think it worked.
Yeah, because good
the commentary team's more competent.
Yeah, they're not a pack of idiots, and it was great. Like, I just want, you know what, right? WWE should just have an off branch where they just do show matches like that.
Yeah, why not?
It was like Lucha Underground. Oh, that's what it was like. It was like Lucha Underground. That's what it felt like.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. It was Lucha Underground before they lost the plot and had that match that killed the entire company. It was that's what it felt like. It felt like, wow, this is a completely unique way of presenting a match, which we've seen many times before, in a way that gets people over, that's safe, and also has some great. Although safe, Adam Cole's arm looked absolutely manky after taking that spot.
I liked seeing some blood though. It was nice,
and it wasn't like you know where he played himself. It was like, yeah, he probably really hit his arm off that, and that probably really hurt. It added that extra oomph to the match.
And something that kind of was bizarre to me during the Keith Lee Gargano match was, how are you going to key somebody all up in the eye and there's no blood, no damage? Like, that was like, well, you know, like
silly, you know.
And I'm not saying I need my wrestlers to bleed every match. I'm just trying to accentuate that when you do see color in a match like Cole vs. Dream, it kind of adds something.
Yeah, and it was like, I love Adam Cole. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite wrestlers, which I didn't expect at all.
No,
just great. Just a really, really solid hand. And one of the, like, again, it's funny because NXT is such a good promotion that going up to the main roster, you're like, it's sometimes not worth it. Like with Finn Balor, like, he's back and he's absolutely killing it. He's in a much better position now than he was on the main roster, or would be on the main roster.
As long as you're being compensated well enough.
Exactly. Once you're getting paid what you're worth, stay in NXT, because that's brilliant. Like Dream is all character for me. And
but it didn't fit him.
It didn't fit him. No. It was a weird.
And I thought it was a. How do I? I thought it was a questionable choice, given the current climate.
I thought that too.
Okay, so I
thought that too.
When he came up to the car with the bat, I was like, what are you going for here?
No, I was like, I know what they were going for. They were going for a Walking Dead reference.
Yes.
And I'm like, cool. But I'm like, you know what? This doesn't look good. And I would have reconsidered. But
we're only making a footnote of this because WWE seems to have a habit of unintentionally doing things at the worst time possible.
Yeah, like Keith Lee obviously came out with the jacket, which was like, okay, cool, whatever. But this was like, oh, this is an opposite message. This probably probably shouldn't have done it. But then again, they did probably shoot
a little
this
tone deaf.
Yeah, a little tone
but
deaf.
that doesn't take away from it. I mean, it was good. We're just pointing it out because it's
look,
we don't hate wrestling. We think it's funny.
Yeah, look, it's up there with when they did the Muhammad Hassan thing after the 7/7 bombing. It was like that's just bad timing, and I think this was just bad timing too because this was pre-taped. Yeah. So it's like,
right.
I'm like, okay, it is what it is, but it's kind of like, oof, that's just bad WWE. That's a bad timing. So you can't really blame anyone for that, other than if they were going to cut it from the show, and they weren't because it was such a big part of it, But yeah, it was what it was.
It's the other side of the hand if you do cut it, because then well, what are your reasons for cutting it?
Exactly.
You just kind of you got to live with it. It's just an interesting footnote in that match.
It was just kind of entertaining, and you're just like, oh, that was.
You know what else made me grimace a little? When Adam Cole came out at first, I got some Hogan Big Show vibes from WCW.
Yeah. But like, I was just like, okay, well, once the cars aren't going to wrestle, that's the main thing. Once it's to get out, it was fine.
Pixar comes in and just animates the match.
Animates the match, or
that's the next step in the cinematic universe.
Oh Lord, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked
Camp
at this point.
WWE this week on pay-per-view.
Oh my God. But look, overall, I'd give this pay-per-view a solid B+, if not A-. Fantastic show. Better than WrestleMania.
I'm not going to remember it, but I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it too. I will remember it because of the presentation more than anything else. I'll probably download the pack on Communities and 2K19 and have a great old time. But well done WWE. Solid pay-per-view. Look, we're going to skip our break and we're just going to go straight into it because we have 20 minutes. We might go into overdrive depending on what we get into. My dog is really wants a walk, so really wants a walk. So,
but if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe and all that stuff. I mean, if you made it this far, why not?
I tell you what, if we get 10 likes on this video, I will show my dog on camera next week. He's a border collie. He's pretty cool. Yeah. I have two of them, Mowgli and Zeus is the small. He was a runt, so he's the smaller one, and he's very agile, so he's able to do crazy shit. So
I saw that picture of Zeus you shared this week.
Yeah, good. He's gas. He's so funny.
Why you guys should be following us on Instagram.
Exactly. Keep up what's going on. To be fair, a lot of my Instagram is my pets because there's nothing else going on at the moment. But all right, so let's go back in the time machine, back to 2006. Yeah, back before the world fell apart. A time which I would give pretty much anything to go back to. I'm not gonna lie. If I could be stuck in a time period, it would be 2001 to 2007.
Well, maybe we could skip the end of 2001.
Yeah, the end of 2001, fair. But I did get to go to America in.
Well, you know what?
August.
Screw it. Actually, it was actually nice to see a country all together for once.
Yeah, and look,
last time
I got to go over to America in August 2001. So
that's cool.
Disneyland was cool. Not gonna lie.
No connection, by the way, guys.
No connection. No.
That's a different podcast.
Exactly. But it was so we're going back, and this was weird because this show was when I was just getting back into wrestling. I left wrestling almost entirely for about 2 to 3 years. After 2002 into 2003, I was like, you know what? It's not really my thing. Just walked away from it. 2005 is when I started watching TNA. That's when I started, because it was a thing again. I was like, cool, gonna watch this. Watched ECW's One Night Stand in 2005 because I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. And then I had kind of slowly seeped back in. By this time, 2006, I was already a fan again. But I was at Metallica the same night.
Really?
Yeah, because Metallica were playing in the RDS in Dublin the same night in June. It was after St. Anger, so it was around that time. And they had done... I got home and I'm like, oh cool, this is on now, so watch this. And that's one of, I might complain about having to watch wrestling at 1 a.m, but sometimes it's kind of handy because you get to do stuff like that, And it was during the summer, so we were off school and stuff, so it was, a great time. But that's where I was, just to set things. So what about yourself, Dave?
Well, yeah, I mean, this was our formative high school years, essentially. Sure. I mean, this is when I was in, I guess, grade 11 or 12, so just ending, so it was absolutely fantastic time for me, just in life, because I was still watching with that childlike wonder. And this is also, a lot of people don't know this about me. They might think I started on WrestleView or whatever. But actually, when I was in school, I started writing, and I had a column that was syndicated on about like 12 or 13 sites, small ones, just so I could work my way up to get to those other sites. And man, it was definitely a time period where I was super invested in wrestling, because I was learning about not just wrestling, but using it as a tool to learn about myself as a writer.
Right.
So I was really into the industry during this time frame, and really into understanding why these storylines exist the way that they do. So when you get the culmination of the storyline that you got for the main event of this pay-per-view, it was just everything as a fan that I needed at that time.
Yeah. No, it's funny because 2006, I finished up school in 2007. Right, so similar kind of experience, and I didn't get involved in the wrestling media as such until 2007, after I had gone over to the Impact Zone. That's when I kind of got into it then, and from there, what happened. But it was a very different world, with totally different places, and watching it solely as a fan is something that I've kind of didn't get to do until recently. Like, we do this show as fans, which is great. And
we're the only fans that don't hate wrestling.
Exactly, that's it. The only podcast, the only podcast done by fans who don't hate wrestling, and that's
absolutely.
And having that back now, because I've watched this show many times. I've watched it about 12, 13 times, at least. And going back and watching it now through that lens is great, because I haven't been able to do that in a while.
It teleports you back in time.
It does, and it's one of those things that, like, music does it as well, where it takes you right back. But this is when you capture that kind of, as you said, childlike wonder almost. It's a really cool experience. Like, having ECW back as a thing, like, the build up to this was great. I remember watching the WWE Raw, SmackDown, ECW Super pre-show, which was on a Saturday before it. That was cool. Never seen that before. Hyping up for ECW, which we didn't know what it would become. Like, there was so much, like, glorious wonder and, like, excitement around this whole show, and that was kind of captured not only in, like, the most famous wrestling sign of all time, which is in bad taste now, but again, like, riots weren't really a thing in 2006. So, the threat of them was actually a thing, and obviously wrestling fans don't riot because, we're wrestling fans. We just continue watching anyway. It's just what happens. But yeah, that was the biggest, most famous wrestling sign of all time. Still is, probably. And the legacy of it is just incredible. Like, it's one of those shows that when you look back, you're saying, this is a moment. RVD winning not only the WWE title, but then what would become the ECW title. Huge. Unexpected. And completely out of this world. But before we get into that, what I really like, actually, I want to give a shout out to a YouTube channel called V Infuso. Really like V Infuso. His stuff is great. He's one of the best YouTube channels you don't know about, so look him up. I think he did something on this a while ago, but check him out. Rey Mysterio versus Sabu. This was a match I remember being horribly disappointed in, but also I couldn't believe it was happening. Sabu was actually in the world title picture.
This match really upset me. The ending upset me.
Yeah, like, it upset me greatly as a kid, and now I'm like, this was so cheap. This is Sabu. The man glued his arm back together in a match. God. Like, come on, it doesn't make any sense. But the match itself was actually pretty good. I tell you, that chair shot that Ray took, holy Christ, like, completely unprotected, like, just nothing, just wham, unbelievable.
Yes, this is the pre-Benoit era, so we were taking unprotected headshots. It was
it was unbelievable. Like,
did you ever think, though, when you were watching at that time, that if you had placed yourself 14 years into the future, that you'd be going, man, chair shots to the head are a bad thing. I probably have writings where I defended them back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, I support it completely now, that they should be banned. Obviously, we know about CTE, all of that, but we were naive back then. I was young back then. I'm not going to deny that I kind of admitted enjoying it, but now it shocks me when I see it.
Look, in Rome, there was this thing. The Colosseum. We are animals who like violence. Instinctively, we're going to kind of enjoy it. But our moral brain says, no, that's wrong. So that's why we don't like it, because we're older and we're not sick in the head. Or teens who are like, yeah, violence is good. Look at the violence. It's like, no, that's horrible, you know. Step back now. Don't, you know. And that's the difference. It's because, one, we're older, and two, we have thing. But again, instinctively, there's still that kind of bloodlust in humans that are like, yeah, get him. And you're like, no, don't get him, because it's horrible. And yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. But, you know, if that work hadn't been done, thankfully it was done, and we know now. But yeah, man, I'm not gonna lie, when you're watching the show and you see it, you're like, damn, that's pretty cool. But you're also just like, oh no, it's you know, it's just, it is what it is. Like, I'm glad nobody's taking unprotected chair shots now. I praise that nobody is taking unprotected chair shots now. But watching a match with unprotected chair shots used, like, not Mick Foley chair shots, which is horrific. Like, even in context, it's a horrific thing to see.
It's the worst thing.
It's the worst thing ever. It really is. Like, I'm amazed The Rock didn't go to jail. Like, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but
I love the way I love the way Sabu throws a chair.
Yeah,
I love when people's heads get caught between it when it hit, because then I know the chair's moving out of the way as well. I mean, it hurts. It obviously takes force, but still, like, it's a really cool visual.
Like, Sabu's arsenal is chairs, and the way he used them like anybody else. Like, I love a good Sabu match. They can't be done now. Well, one, because he's a lot older, and two, just can't do it. But you go back and watch his matches, you're going to see some really cool stuff. You know, throwing the chair, the Arabian face bomb, just unbelievable stuff. And I love him. He's great. But what I really, that spot at the end, I will have to say, even though it was disappointing, the spot where he set out the table and then did the crash on the outside did look really cool. But it was a little bit, you know, it was what it was.
It was just, we wanted to go a bit longer.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, we didn't mention that just very quickly, that Panama Sunrise onto the ECW chairs. I'm calling them the ECW chairs because the Undisputed Era threw them into the match during the takeover. That was a cool spot.
Yeah.
This kind of reminded me of it. But yeah, who would have thought WWE would allow a Canadian Destroyer, let alone a Canadian Destroyer on chairs?
Oh, when that spot happened, I was like, that is effing cool. It's unbelievably cool. It looks so
dangerous.
Good. Yeah, I know it's dangerous, but I'm like, it's so cool looking. You know,
cool.
And this is it. Like, with wrestling, even though it's worked and we know it's predetermined, it's still a combat sport. So, it needs to be a little bit dangerous, and, you know, that's why they have the big matches. That's why Match in a Cell doesn't work. That's why Hell in a Cell works. Match in a Cell just doesn't work. You know, if you're going to introduce Occam's razor, right?
Right.
If you introduce a chair or a load of chairs, those chairs better be used, because then it's just a tease. You know, and to use them with a Canadian Destroyer is effing rad. Sorry, I can't believe we didn't mention it now. Absolutely.
No, I said shut that out.
I'm actually going to go back after we finish taping and watch that spot again, because it was so good.
It was nuts.
It was crazy. I remember just popping like, oh, great. Anyway, this show opened with a very disappointing Taz Lawler match. I thought their match at SummerSlam was a lot better from like, 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well, six years ago.
4 or 5 years difference, my mate.
Yeah, 6 years ago. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was what it was. But this was just basically to get Taz back up in the commentary booth, which is where he'd stay in ECW. We had the first WWE ECW match. And this was weird for me as a kid.
Because neither ECW.
But also, it was just a WWE match. Like, they had pyro and everything. And I did like Joey Styles' little snide remarks about it. I thought that was fun. But I'm like, this is just silly, lads. Like, it's just a WWE match. But Randy Orton got, like, horrifically taunted and booed by everybody in the arena. They called him stuff which, if said now, would be a hate crime.
Yeah, right.
They'd be cancelled. That's what I'm like, I can't believe these words were just said and broadcast, and now you'd be cancelled, and, you know.
Oh, you absolutely would be. Though, to be fair, this was pay-per-view, and you can show literally anything on pay-per-view. It's just weird because
but still,
it's on the streaming network now, so
hard F words and other such things.
Hard ones.
It's like, yikes, you know, big yikes for me. But again, we're 14 years older and we're grown adults, so it's kind of like, okay, but grown adults were saying this at the time. You're like, what's going on? Like, come on.
I didn't understand what their issue was.
Yeah.
You know, it's what's so funny though is that those people in 2006 were complaining that we weren't getting the language and the nudity and everything that we were getting in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So it's like every 10 years, it's like you guys don't realize it was still pretty ridiculous.
It was pretty,
during that time.
And like, yeah, it's because, you know, when you go to a WWE show, there's like 6-8-year-olds there with their families. This show was all like, 18 and above, who wanted all the stuff from the Attitude Era. So yeah, the language is going to be a bit different. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I brought my kid to a WWE show and the guy beside me was using hard Fs, I'll be like, hey man, you know, don't. You know, it's like, can you not? So yeah, I totally understand it. You know, it's a different kind of world. You know, but yeah, like this match was fun. 15 minutes, a bit too long, but it did get over Kurt Angle's new character. Did get over his new harder extreme persona, which was cool.
Man, sometimes when I watch these pay-per-views though, I fast forward in my head to a WrestleMania 12 years later and go, what happened? I mean, with Kurt Angle we know what happened, but sometimes,
man, like well, look, Kurt Angle would be gone out of the company by the end of this year and he'd be over in TNA probably for, and I'm, you know, I would cover this on the 4 Podmen, probably for the best run of his career. TNA was the best years of his career, and stuff he did there, that's what happened.
Those moonsaults.
Doing moonsaults off a cage. Christ on his throne. That is just unbelievable. Like,
unfortunately, we know why he could withstand the pain, which turned out to be an issue.
That's also a thing. But listen, guys, we're going to take our break here for the radio segment. If you're listening, go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com right now. Get the rest of the show. Subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, all that kind of good stuff. If you go onto YouTube, that's where you're going to get a whole bunch of content, so we would urge you to go there. Nerd to Know Media on YouTube. nerdtoknowmedia.com is where you can get everything. Check out all the shows. We'll be back next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Guys, for everyone who's listening to the audio feed or watching the show, we're going to come right back after this. And we're back here on the stream. I'm going to get some ads to play.
What a long break that was.
What a long break that was.
What a long break.
It's funny because on the actual like audio segment, I actually do put in ads, but I need to get some for the stream. So we'll do that. But
if you guys are sticking with us into overtime, it means you are watching on some other platforms. So seriously, I'll love you if you subscribe.
Yeah, like, look, this is fun because, as I said, you know, we were covering wrestling for about 10, 15 years where it wasn't fun and all we wanted to do was
we weren't laughing this much, trust us.
It was just like, you know, what's it, Brent's like, Dara, everything you go to is just, you know, talk about TNA and that would be your red point for everything. I'm like, of course it was. That's what I was working for. You know, it's like, it was just what I was watching the whole time. But with WWE, it was just like, ugh. But actually being able to go back and watch this now and enjoy this stuff again is just an absolute privilege. So everyone, thank you for watching the show and for joining us as well. And again, look, if there's something you want us to cover, because this is a show that is kind of dictated by you guys. So, like, if you don't tell us what we're going to watch, Dave's going to send me a message at, like, on a Friday going, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. This maybe. I know next week we're going to talk about the greatest match of all time, apparently. But other than
apparently
that,
we are.
Yeah, apparently that's what's going to happen. But,
I mean, how can we not? It's going to be earth shattering.
It has to. It has to. Like that's my expectation. I don't know about you, man.
I fully expect there to be a cataclysm. We're going to end the Younger Dryas. I'm not sure. Something has
to happen, because if not, going to be very disappointed.
Very disappointed. Do you think it'll be a cinematic match?
Oh, well, it has to be the best match. Has to be the. You know.
I mean, does that?
Well, unless we're looking at it wrong, and the best match of all time is a gimmick match.
So there's Randy Orton and Edge, and then also there's the greatest match of all time.
Exactly,
and then also there's
like that's the actual gimmick itself, and we just haven't been told what it is.
Oh, okay.
They're just becoming TNA, where they're going to like explain exactly what it is on the on the screen.
Give a list of 20 rules
Exactly.
that no one can understand.
Oh my
even
God.
if they're great. You know,
I
I like King of the Ladder, but good luck explaining it.
Look, King of the Mountain match I will defend because I love King of the Mountain match.
Yeah.
But the last rights match,
Dude, penalty boxes are so hard to keep track of.
yeah, it's
and you have to pin somebody before you can climb. Like what?
No, you have to pin someone before you're activated, and it's like,
yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? You know, it's overbooked.
Like somebody was playing the video game, was like, okay, now you've got your finisher
and now
unlocked.
you're good to go. It's like now you have the little icon that you can, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what, actually, what we should do, well, if we run out of fun WWE stuff, we might look at crazy TNA stuff eventually. If there's an audience for it, because I'm trying to figure out a way how we won't.
True.
I'm trying to figure out a way how we won't get like watch-alongs and stuff are okay to do, but it's kind of risky with copyright. So we'll just see. We'll just see. Like we might go back. Like let us know if you want to see some TNA stuff. Let us know in the comments below. But yeah, getting back to this, right? So there was a Balls Mahoney Tanaka match. Not a good match.
Balls didn't look very good.
No, but like Tanaka.
This was the shortest real match on the card.
Yeah.
And
you
you expected great things out of a guy like Tanaka. And
well, look, the year before we had Mike Awesome's match with Tanaka, which wasn't the best Mike Awesome Tanaka match. That is Heatwave '98, I think. But that's the one that we'd always watch as kids. We're like, hey. Right. I remember going over to my friend Chris's house, and he'd be like, hey, bro, do you want to watch this? I'm like, what is it? This is crazy. And we'd watch Heatwave '98. Just, crazy. So that would kind of always be the one that, in my circle, we'd be like, this is the best Tanaka match with Mike Awesome. And the one they got in One Night Stand 2005 was pretty good, but wasn't the best one. This was very disappointing. And, like, what I will say is, like, this pay-per-view, it had some elements in it that should have foretold that it's not going to be fully what we expect it to be.
This was definitely... Well, first, rest in peace to Mike Awesome.
Oh, yeah,
Did I get it right this week?
You did get it right. You did.
Yeah, okay,
because you thought you were still alive for some reason.
Yep. I know. Did you have to go there?
I have to
slide it in.
I have to bring it up. If you hadn't brought it up, I would have forgot. But, Dave Stevens, former reviewer of Raw for years, didn't know Mike Awesome was dead. Sorry.
But,
sorry, Dave. I had to.
You just had to rub that in.
I did. Yeah, I had to.
Great. I don't even know.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to cover my butt a couple weeks ago, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to expose you here right now.
I'm sorry. Look, everybody makes mistakes. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, as Miley Cyrus would sing.
No. That's a whopper tune, though, to be fair. Miley Cyrus, man. I have to say, her Hannah Montana stuff was better than her Miley Cyrus. Just saying.
I mean, there's ups and downs. There's ups and down periods.
One thing
apparently she is good on that Black Mirror episode. I haven't seen it. She plays that Ashley girl.
She's really good. That whole episode is quite good. There's also a Hannah Montana Linux version, if people are interested.
I saw you post that.
So that's wild.
The more I learn, I'm gonna...
So you might have your form of Debian right there, man. Just saying. Anyway, I think that's a topic for a different podcast. Because there is a tech podcast coming to Nerd to Know Media, so...
cool. One of the things I really like about having so many shows on this network is I will find a topic pop up that I would not expect to be covered or talked about. One of it had to do with Pikachu one week, and I was interested. I was like, oh my gosh, I've always wondered about that.
Yeah,
and there was a dream version of Platinum, something that you guys wanted to play.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah,
last week or something. So it's just, there's so much fun on this network, guys. So you subscribe to our show, you're subscribing to getting to see a lot of other shows pop up in your feed as well, with some topics that might just tickle your fancy.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing, if you're watching, if you don't like wrestling, why are you watching this? But if you do,
there is us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's But but like, there's so much covered on this that literally there is stuff from hardcore Japanese horror and Pikachu to conspiracy theories and aliens. So we cover everything on this network. So if you're watching this, or if you just came across this, subscribe. I guarantee it's worth your time. And watch out for some crazy technology stuff which is coming soon. So Hannah Montana Linux is a thing and will be covered at some point, even if I have to do it. But right. So R.I.P. Mike Awesome. And don't worry, Dave, I won't bring it up again.
Jesus, that's how we segue back.
That's how we segue back. So yeah, like
now I always get to associate it with Miley.
Exactly. Well, there you go.
Great. On a very serious note, I'm just gonna try and bring us in super serial, just so
super
we can
serial.
Kind of
so we can go back. So we can go back to the chair shots.
Since we are going back to some hardcore stuff, I do want to give a shout out to Danny Havoc, a phenomenal deathmatch wrestler that passed away this week. I had the chance to meet him a couple times. Very down to earth guy. There's a lot of people. I said this in my post, but there's a lot of people who get into deathmatch wrestling just for exposure, maybe other forms of wrestling. They wouldn't quite fit in, or he's a guy that did it just because that's really the type of wrestling that he loved, and he wanted to elevate it. And it was just kind of a shock, and just wild.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that news. I don't think anybody really was. R.I.P. to Danny Havoc. It sucks, like he was. I think
he was like 34. So
yeah, he's only a couple of years older than us. Like, so it's sad. It's been a while since we've had that kind of death in wrestling thing, and when you're watching hardcore wrestling, it's not deathmatch wrestling, and deathmatch wrestling definitely is a choice. Like we saw it with Mox, where he left WWE to go wrestle in glass and barbed wire. It's just a calling for some guys, and this is what they want to do. So, that is really sad. And when it happened, I saw your post, Dave, and I was like, "Wow, man, that's really sad." So hopefully him and his family.
Made me really happy though, I got to say, is seeing WWE stars reach out and mention him on Twitter and stuff, because a lot of the guys worked with him.
Well, think about it. Like, a lot of the guys now who are big stars are former deathmatch guys or have been there, and that's the difference. It's not as factionized. That's a word that I've made up. It's not as split where we can't talk about people who we worked with because whatever. Now it's like, well, yeah, we did work with him and he's passed, so I'm gonna and Twitter I don't particularly like. I kind of hate Twitter at some points, but with wrestling it's great sometimes, particularly with stuff like this where communities can come together, and sadly it is around death usually where communities come together. But look, I hope his family at least are getting the support they need, and he'll always be remembered as one of the greats of deathmatch wrestling. So
one of the absolute first deathmatch show that I attended was CZW's Tournament of Death 7 back in I think it was 2006 or 2007. He would go on to win that event, so he was the first kind of big star that I saw. And these are the days of like Necro Butcher and Moxley and all of them. So and Drake Younger, who was featured yet again as a referee during the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream match.
Oh wow, that was him.
Yes.
Oh, I knew he looked familiar. That's crazy. Like
WWE seems to use him. Triple H must trust him because he seems to get used for matches that Triple H cares about. For those that don't remember, even though he's an NXT referee, he's the one that did Ronda Rousey's debut match. It's just something they trust about him.
But that's it. It's like these deathmatch guys, the ones that stick around, unless they're doing crazy spots, which you can't really do anymore now, they're usually safe enough. To wrestle that kind of style, you can't be if you're a backyard wrestler, that's what I'm talking about. But you can't really be stupid and make a career out of it. Like, if you're going and doing this dangerous stuff, you kind of need to know what you're doing. And that's probably why. That's probably why he's been used, because he's like, look, he's a safe hand. We're going to do some crazy spots here. He knows how to get out of the way and look after himself, so it's fine. But, yeah, it's good, great catch, man. I honestly, knew, when I was looking at him, I'm like, he looks really familiar. I don't know why. And now you've said it, so fair play. But look, kind of circling back to this, Masanaka Tanaka has some great body of work. I would recommend it if you like good hardcore matches that aren't WWE of the variety. They're more like straight, basically like strong style with a chair. You're gonna see Tanaka pop up. The chair shots that he took from Mike Awesome are sick. But this Balls Mahoney match, it's not good. It doesn't even register on his match. For me, this was just ridiculous. And Balls Mahoney won, which was even more ridiculous. But
this wasn't a good time for him in his career.
No, it wasn't. It was not. There was the FBI Tajiri match. It was great to see Tajiri, but not a great match. So let's just focus on the two main events. So this was built as kind of like a double main event show. There was the ECW main event, which was an ECW feud versus a WWE feud. This was in one of Mick Foley's books. I don't remember which one. Hardcore Diaries. That was the one that was in. That's when I met Mick Foley. During that time, yeah. He was signing his book in Easton's on O'Connell Street, which is the main street in Dublin, and I got to meet him, and it was, great guy, really nice guy. But yeah, and this whole storyline is mapped out. So Edge and Mick Foley had a phenomenal match at WrestleMania 22. That was the hardcore match, and it really kind of put Edge on the map as, right, we know he's able to do ladders, but is he able to hang with Mick Foley? Oh yeah, just like Randy Orton. Randy Orton had the same baptism by fire 2 years beforehand, which
that
yeah,
was it a power bomb onto the tax?
Onto the tax,
DDT, whatever
DDT onto the tax, yeah. And it was he was going for the RKO, and he kind of pushed him off.
Threw him, yeah.
And the thing of it is, again, one thing I don't understand about lads that wrestle with thumbtacks: why are you in trunks? Wear jeans and a t-shirt. Don't be stupid.
I can tell you why.
No, I know why, but I'm just, every time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my god, this is going to end bad. Like, obviously it's for impact, but also so tacks don't get stuck in your shirt and all that kind of stuff. But
it's also because if you want to go out to an indie show for that type of match wearing a shirt, you're going to get plenty of hard Fs dropped your way by the crowd.
Oh, really?
You take it off. Oh,
no way, really?
It is not respected.
Oh, right. Well, fair.
They want to see, if you're in a match that has barbed wire or thumbtacks, they want to see the blood. They want to see the punishment. Yeah, they want blood.
Wow. Okay. You see what I said? I go back to my statement. It's true. We are no better than the Romans. We are no better than the Romans. Oh, wow. That makes way more sense. Well, it makes sense. I suppose it makes sense there. But why in WWE? Do you think this was just a backstage thing where Orton was like, I want to show how tough I
am? Say that again?
Did you think this was a similar kind of thing where Orton did that to show how tough he was?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I think it was.
Okay.
Because he was, 2004 he debuted, so this is 2006. So yeah, this was still his proving time. Wow. Really.
Well, guys, I did not know that was the case. So there you go. That's why they don't cover up, because they will be mocked heavily. Wow.
And if you do see somebody that happens to be really, really heavily covered up, they're going to get set on fire.
No way, really?
Because multiple layers that you can layer and get them out. Even though last time I saw that happen, they still got third-degree burns. But still, hey, it's all cool.
That's insane. So yeah, they just wrestle in trunks so you can see how cut up they are at the end of the match.
Yep. Pants are allowed.
Pants are allowed.
Really it's the canvas of the back that people want to see.
Right, you want to see cut up and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so you can't wear a shirt, but you can wear pants.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, yeah. Still, I don't know why he wore trunks still, because it's like that cannot be.
You're right, Derek. He shouldn't even worn trunks. He should have just taken that.
Take that off. Just go for it. Oh no! But
should have taken that spot full on.
But like in this match with Edge, like Edge was wearing pants, so it kind of was less. And I think he was wearing like a t-shirt and a kind of vest, so that would be looked down upon. Is that correct?
But he went through a table of fire, did he not?
Oh, yeah, that's very true. There we go. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So
for sometimes I know what I'm talking about, guys.
Yeah, makes sense. I did not. My mind is blown. Dave, this is the second time you've done this on a show I've done where you've totally blown my mind that I can't even recover. Now, to be fair, the time travel one, I was just finished at the whole point. We had to end the show because I just couldn't comprehend it. But yeah, so there you go. So yeah, like this was set up with Mick Foley and Edge, and then when Edge won the match, he was given the hardcore belt, and Mick Foley was like, "Look, you're the new hardcore guy." And this was obviously to set up a big kind of heel turn for Mick Foley, which was weird because it's very hard to actually get Mick Foley booed and this kind of work because he was doing everything. It was kind of go back to the ECW Kane Dewey anti-hardcore wrestling, and it's set up a feud now with Tommy Dreamer, Terry Funk, Beulah. Beulah came back to be the foil for Lita.
Yeah.
So this match was actually really good. Now, it was better and worse than the year before match with the Dudleys and Sandman. It didn't have that true feel to it, but it was a better match.
It definitely was. Tommy Dreamer's ability to inflict pile drivers on women is unparalleled. in the wrestling industry.
Well, yeah, it's something to be known for, right? I suppose.
Something to be known for.
Yeah.
I mean, if you live in the house of hardcore, you're gonna be hardcore. So it just, it's, I don't know. Would we see that nowadays? Maybe,
No.
maybe not. I don't
No,
know.
we would not. Like, and case in point, with Lucha Underground, this is what took down Lucha Underground: the violence on women, intergender matches. That's what took
I
it
was
down.
thinking of
Yeah.
when I was thinking of this type of thing during In Your House, because I love Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano, but every time I think of Candice, I just think of the fact that she built her career as an intergender wrestler.
Yeah.
She built her career showing that she could wrestle against the men, and it's a side of her that I don't think we'll ever really see in the WWE.
Look, and there was a thing on the Observer. Brian Everett was talking about it, and it's true. Like, people don't like seeing women being beaten up by men.
No,
They just don't.
Well,
Well, no,
I mean, no. Oh, wow, this pain. No, but
Unless-
unscripted.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, it's a harder sell. For example, if you're watching,
Yes.
like,
It's easier to sell a chair shot to the head unprotected than it is
yeah, like,
Mae Young going through a table with a power bomb. But I still love both of them.
well, Mae Young couldn't really kill Mae Young, like, like
So
realistic.
that's the acceptable limit.
Couldn't really, like, she just was who was. But I mean, for your and even still, the way that was sold, it was like, this is the most dastardly thing done ever. But what I mean is, an example that Figure 4 uses is when Austin was beating up the Hardy Boys, and then absolutely decimated Lita with a chair and a stunner and everything, and the ratings just went through the floor. It's like, there's a line, right, where, yeah, competitive matches with women, totally fine, intergender matches are fine, but when it's absolutely brutalizing, it's like somewhere that triggers that innate response where you're like, yeah, no, this isn't,
It's just uncomfortable.
it's
to
uncomfortable.
watch.
Exactly, and that's
It's-
the difference.
I think there's a huge difference between a spot and a beatdown.
Exactly, and that's what that match in Lucha Underground was. It was a beatdown for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, no, this isn't it. And I think, like, the way they used to hear when Tommy Dreamer does it, it's like, it's a spot. It's not like a focal point of the match. And
Right. That's yeah.
yeah, and Lita kind of, she got what she deserved as such from Beulah. Beulah was the one who was the arbiter of justice, not Tommy, and that was kind of a cool way that they always did it. So whenever they set that up, it was never gratuitous. It was always kind of inside the storyline. You know the way.
Speaking of storyline
Yeah.
inside of, what a change it was for Edge and Lita than a year previous at ECW One Night Stand.
Yes, very much so. But
Yeah.
also Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was in the ECW camp the year before as well.
Yeah, well, but he was in the anti-ECW camp, but Edge and Lita were in the they were just in the fans hate you because of what's going on with Matt Hardy camp.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was, so
that was
you want to
too.
talk about some chance.
Oh yeah.
And the complete, this is what I love about wrestling is, as a fan base, you can completely switch and turn around in the course of a year to beloved, and we completely forgive you.
Wrestling fans are very fickle, but also very forgiving, if nothing else. So that's just the kind of way. But like, this match, I really enjoyed. For me, it was like the highlight of the show until it wasn't. And if you want to see any match on this was one that you'll really enjoy, like bell to bell, as an ECW original thing. It would have fit, even with who was in it, it still would have fit in ECW, right? That's what I mean. And then we have what wouldn't have fit in ECW at all, but still goes down as one of the best ECW matches or one of the most important ECW matches, and I use that in quotation marks, of WWE canon. It was
Forget that. It's one of the most important wrestling matches.
for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, with that ECW proviso, which
Right, the WWE ECW
Yeah.
timeline.
yeah, but like, it's still very important for ECW as such because of what it meant and what it did and what it set up. Now, briefly, we'll touch on it. We'll probably go into it more if we ever look at December to Dismember and what happened with the breakdown. But all things going well, this would have launched ECW into a new wave. It would have pretty much become NXT with Punk at its focal point, with RVD leading that charge. But what happened, and that all fell apart, and then it was an uphill battle for Paul Heyman from the get-go at that point. Because remember, like, this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be a flash in the pan kind of thing, and that was it. But, you know, the One Night Stand was a massive success. The Rise and Fall of ECW was a runaway success. I still think it's the most sold WWE DVD of all time.
I know it was for a long time.
And that was it, you know. So Paul Heyman at this point was holding all the cards and had everything going his way. And it was undone by one police checkpoint, basically. And some bad decisions by RVD. So just bear that in mind as we're going forward.
But you know what? I think what you're saying is important in the sense that forget about what happened after this moment.
Try to.
We're going to talk about this moment.
Yeah. Like I'm setting it up in such a way that
yeah,
everything that happened was completely opposite to what was meant to happen, basically. And at this point, this was Paul Heyman's probably most success until Brock Lesnar and his career after wrestling and now running Raw. But I mean, like,
this was a bigger success than anything he did in ECW. In the original ECW.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They
had more buys than any, you know, right?
They had more buys, more attention, and more support. There was actually money behind this as well.
Yes.
And this was a real
the venue.
chance.
The venue was a perfect choice, going to the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Everything.
And tapping into, we talked about, you know, the fans and not having little kids there, really, for the most part. And that's because the people who bought tickets, because they were priced fairly high,
$1,000. They were $1,000. I did not know that. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, $1,000 for a wrestling show? Get effed.
So you want to know why the fans were really invested, like, emotionally?
You know, no way. Like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't pay $1,000 for anything. You know, no. It's just no. But fair play for anyone who did. You know, you got your money's worth. But yeah, like, that was, I couldn't believe that. I only found that out recently from the Solo Monster. I was like, what? You paid $1,000?
Yeah. That's why whenever you see those people who sit at the front of every WWE show, when, you know,
where's the money coming from? What did they do?
That's what I wonder. Like, how can you afford to travel this much? And like, what do you do?
Exactly. It's like, is it drugs? Are you? Because is
that why you're traveling so much?
That's what it has to be. Person who shows up at every wrestling event, because I don't know what you do. There's no way.
No job.
That's all said in jest. Obviously, they're not drug dealers. They might be.
No, they probably are. Though, but
I don't know.
So,
but
it's possible.
Anything's possible. But it's like, seriously, anyone who's sewn up at that, let me know what you do or don't, because it could be something criminal. But fair play.
Could you imagine, like, and then you want to multiply that by magnitudes for like to sit front row at a WrestleMania? Like, yes, would that be a once in a lifetime experience? But would it be worth it? I don't know.
Like,
maybe
I don't know. Like, okay, look,
I don't know.
This being at this show would be one of the kind of things where it's like, oh yeah, look, it's probably worth it for what it was, particularly based on last year, the year before. Right. It probably would have been like, well, look, this is probably not going to happen again, and it didn't. This was the last time we'd get this presentation of ECW on a pay-per-view. I know they did a couple of their early shows on Sci-Fi from Hammerstein Ballroom, and to be fair, they probably should have just kept that. They should go back if they can. I don't know if it's still there or not. I think it is, but they should actually be able to go back and do a show. I think when they moved.
No, I haven't been paying attention to what people have been doing this week. Couldn't tell you if it's still there, Derek.
I don't know. You're closer to it than I am. That's the truth of it. But yeah, like, based on this week, it might not be there anymore. It's you know. But if it is still there,
this is Derek's Mike Oslo moment.
If it's I don't know, guys. Look, I live in Ireland. All right, we don't know. We're just a bunch of leprechauns. Okay, we just look over and go, America's crazy and scary. We're staying away. And I should be there now, like in like 12 days, which is unbelievable. But yeah, look, if it is still there, they should use it again. That's my point. Where they should be actually, because this had a different feel than everything else. This was like one of those amazing shows that felt completely. And even in WWE games, they bring it back. In that what's the real like low rent one that you end up wrestling for, BCW or something? Yeah, I think it is BCW, and like you wrestle in the Hammerstein Ballroom and they make a big thing out of it.
Are you talking about currently?
No, in the actual games itself. In 2K,
Oh, in the games. Yeah, I think it is BCW.
Yeah, in 2K19, you unlock Hammerstein Ballroom because you wrestle there and you make a big song and dance out of it. So obviously it's still something that is ingrained in WWE lore. And I don't know why they've never gone back to it. Recently, anyway.
Well, the good news is good news, everybody. It's still open.
It's still open. It's not burned down.
Still open.
Thankfully.
No.
Good.
I mean, it's not open currently, but it's open.
It's still there. It's still standing.
It exists. It's still used,
so
but
good
not
stuff.
current. It just.
But yeah, look, WWE, go back to it. You know, when this lockdown.
Really, what's important to know about it is that it's where 30 Seconds to Mars played their 300th sold-out world record show on December 7th, 2011. So
that's crazy. That's crazy.
But look, I'm giving a shout out to my favorite band, but at this point, I might as well.
Actually, you know what's funny? 30 Seconds to Mars has the bass player of Angel Airwaves, the former bass player.
Oh, their new bass player that they got like last year?
No, they're all Matt
Tomo?
Matt Watcher was in 30 Seconds to Mars, and then he was in Angel Airwaves. I actually met Matt.
That's like first album, wasn't
it? Second album.
Second? It's a great album.
I met Matt Watcher actually outside a show in Manchester. Outside the Angels Airwaves show, because nobody knew who he was because they were all there for Tom DeLonge, and I'm like, oh hey Matt, and he's like, what? Hey, and I was just and everyone was like, who's that? I'm like, it's the bass player of the band, and they're all like, what? I'm like, yeah, watch them.
That's cool. Yeah, that's an interesting era for that group.
Definitely.
What year was that?
That was 2000. Actually, that was this era. This is 2006.
I was gonna say, yeah, that would fit. Yeah, that was. We were still getting screamo out of Jared Leto back then.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, so look, I want this. I would want this every year, and it's basically what we went back to in your house, where it was a different feel. It presented a different feel, and actually made the show feel important. So the minute you saw, the pan coming in, you're like, okay, we're here. This is not WWE, and that was important to set up this match. They were like, this is not WWE. This is, to Paul Heyman, it's ECW, right? That was his promo kind of thing. And
yeah, you're only talking about 3,000 or so people.
Exactly.
So
it was a really intimate feel, and it was perfect.
What I love about those small venues is it allows the crowd to chant together.
Exactly.
That's one of the things about Madison Square Garden. It only sits 20,000. Like when you're in, let's say WrestleMania had been in Tampa Bay this year, we're talking about an 85,000 person crowd. You don't get the same kind of fluidity. Your emotions not as connected to each other.
Yeah, like that's one thing that one of my favorite wrestling shows I ever went to was in the National Stadium in Ireland. It was a TNA show, 1,000 people, but it was packed out, and it was AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle in the main event. They went for an hour. It was amazing. Wow. It was unbelievable. It was probably the best match I've ever seen. Yeah, and as you said, it was because the crowd was so into it and it was so intimate, and it was just like, this is amazing. So yeah, look, that's what they went for, and this is what they really wanted to kind of replicate, and this is what John Cena walked into, and this is John Cena. We hate John Cena because he has transcended from being word life John Cena, which I actually really enjoy, to this force down our throat, everything that we don't like kind of character. And he
became a call. He was a creator wrestler.
He became a creator wrestler. He really did. And this was full on hatred. I've never seen hatred at this level for anyone. And he takes off his shirt and it gets thrown back, and he tries again, and someone spits on it and throws it back, and you're like, wow, this is serious. And when he walked out, no one cheered, everyone booed, but he kind of went through it. And I think that was like the most face thing he could have done, where he's like, I don't care, I'm just going to go and do it anyway. So
I loved the head down, just walking straight to the ring, not slapping any hands. It was so as good. Heel Cena as we get to see Cena.
It was heel Cena, but not really. It was more kind of like anti-heel, where he's like, look, I'm just going to go in and kick ass.
Yeah, it was, I know this isn't my homeland, but I'm still here to try and defend my honor or whatever.
Exactly. And it's never been replicated. I think the closest we got to it was with CM Punk and Money in the Bank.
Yeah, that's the next one that stands out. And they both happen to be results of the Money in the Bank ladder match, which we covered And I know we covered this match in talking about that, but it deserves to be reiterated for the timestamp that it was for wrestling.
Like, the match itself was a very, very good RVD match. Like, Cena, one thing I liked about Cena, and do like about Cena, is that he always works. One thing I like and dislike about Cena is that he works to the person who's in the ring with. So we can have some great matches and then just have some absolute terrible matches. With RVD was in the prime of his career at this point. It would peter out in the next 3 or 4 years, which sadly was in TNA. But this was his pinnacle. And it was a great match. It wasn't the most violent match in the world. It didn't have to be. It had some violent spots. But it served its job, you know. For the first 10 minutes, it was a very, very competitive match. Then we start getting schlock, basically. And the ending, obviously, it was John Cena at the table. Some guy comes in wearing a mask, like a biker's helmet, spears John Cena. It's Edge, which nobody expected.
No, especially not because he already wrestled earlier in the night.
Still don't understand why. I don't know why that was.
I have no idea.
Like that, it still makes no sense why it happened. Nick Patrick came out to the ring, was there as well, which was weird to see Nick Patrick. And yeah, Spears RVD rolls back in. Paul Heyman runs out 1, 2, 3, counts the match. RVD is
it's legit.
Your WWE and ECW champion, as you can see in Dave's background image there. What I like about it is it's like, you know, you have the Sandman in the back and just incredible, and then his big mallet head is just standing there like Big Show. Like,
there's some RVD for you.
There you go. But the thing about the Big Show is it's like he had only just defected to ECW like the night before. So it's like, yeah, we're kicking off this whole new event and it's going to be proper hardcore ECW. Big Show. Okay. Like, this is already has some bad elements in it.
You know what, though? It honestly revived the careers of Big Show and Mark Henry.
It did.
For me.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Well, Mark Henry would go and have his Hall of Pain pretty much a couple of years after this.
Right. So but I think if he had not been sent to the ECW and gotten some screen time, he might have never been seen for having a new character like that. One of the things I absolutely loved during this match, and we were talking about with the whole fan interaction thing, is the way the fans were so on Cena, and they were doing, as you would get with Punk later, they were doing the "You can't wrestle" chants, and he would respond to that by doing a wrestling move.
Yes.
And then the fans will respond to that with "You still suck."
Yeah, like there's good actually there is a good exchange in that where there's the "You can't wrestle" and then there's a wrestling exchange and everyone just stops and goes, "You still suck," and it's like, this is brilliant. It's actually fantastic. Like, it's really, really good. And it's one thing that, like, sadly the next 2 or 3 years there would be none of that because it was just a Cena what's the word I'm looking for?
Promo vehicle?
Or even bulldozing, because there was nobody to be able to have that level until Punk came along, where he's like, all right, you know, we're gonna and then you got some of the best matches of both their career, where Punk and Cena would have absolute barn burners. So it's just one of
Pile Driver on Monday Night Raw.
A Pile Driver, which is, I think they were the only two guys who were able to do that at that point.
I'm sure they both still got fined for it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But they were still like, we're just going to do what we want, and they're able to. And fair play, like
Punk knew he was gone shortly, so
But even still, we've seen this again this year with Cena's commitment to the Firefly Funhouse match, where he was the one running a lot of these spots and running a lot of these elements. And it's a shame, you know. It's like, as somebody who was very hard on John Cena, it's like at the time, what else could they have done but what they were given? There wasn't really that. Like, AJ Styles should have been in WWE years ago, but he wasn't. He was in TNA. All the good talent that WWE could have used, who are using now, come from TNA or the Indies, and they were just too young or inexperienced or just didn't want to leave. So it was.
And
really
the WWE straight up refused to use them. I mean, you were blacklisted. If you worked for Ring of Honor, you worked for TNA, you were essentially blacklisted.
Exactly.
For working in the WWE for a couple of years, it was very, very bizarre.
Yeah, it wasn't until Triple H took over and started changing this.
Yep.
Where it was like, and I do think if, you know, in an alternative timeline, if that wasn't the case, I think we would have seen a very different John Cena. Someone who wouldn't have been you can't wrestle, but more look who you have wrestled. And it's the black mark on his career that time period, that 3 to 5 years, it did nothing for nobody. It just kind of ticked over, and it's a very forgettable time period.
Did a lot for his bank account.
Well, fair enough. Not gonna say no to that, right? No one's gonna be stupid enough to do that. But like, with the exception of Shawn Michaels matches, that great match he had on Raw with Shawn Michaels, and a few matches here and there, it was very, very, very poor in hindsight. But then he redeemed himself by, that great US title run and stuff like that. But it's just what could have been, right? And then what was when TNA eventually, when the main card of WWE eventually just became TNA. So it was what it was. But Dave,
did you know that the Hammerstein Ballroom is actually owned by a church?
No way.
Yeah, that's serious.
That's funny.
It looks like it was bought that way in the 70s, and then they renovated it, but they're the ones who run everything.
Well, there you go.
Sun Myung Moon's Unification Church is the current owner.
Only in America. That's it. That's why you guys are the best country in the world. Stuff like that just doesn't exist anywhere else but in America. It's great. Anyway, look, before we finish up this week, we've done an hour of overtime. I think this is the longest show we've done on the Rewind ever. So thanks for everyone sticking with us. If there's anything you want to comment on, let us know in the comments below. You can email us nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com. That's just the general email for all the shows. Twitter, I'm on Twitter as well, @DarWV. Dave's on Twitter, Dave Stevens, right?
Yep, Dave Stevens. Give me some follows on Twitter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to pretend that it's the old days, and I can just go down there and troll, and then I remember, I need to delete some tweets. So it's a fun time to follow me.
Exactly. Cancel culture is the thing. It's kind of scary.
Every day I go on, am I shadow banned yet? No, still good? Okay, let's go.
There we go.
Let's roll.
So, yeah, exactly. It's like, what's going on? Oh, Twitter. It's so funny and so scary at the same time. But look, if you follow my Twitter, usually I'm talking about something tech related or shouting abuse at our unelected Prime Minister, who's still there despite it being 4 months since the election, so okay. Or I'm talking about wrestling. So they're the 3 things that I talk about on Twitter more than anything else. So give me a follow if you want. And Nerd to Know Media, all shows all the time. We don't know what we're going to talk about this week or next week on the Rewind, so we will let us know.
Even though I think we've actually said it earlier in the show, and I think we've both forgotten.
Yeah, we don't know.
Oh, we have to talk about the greatest match ever.
That's the only thing we have. That's going to be our lead-in next week. But I
mean, it's the greatest match ever. It deserves a full hour
already. Several hours, maybe. Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna have to cancel work.
Oh, it's what's going to happen. But that we're going to cover that. We might cover out something else. We'll throw it up on Twitter or Facebook. Go over to the Facebook page, guys. Dave and myself are quite active on that. And I'm also posting stuff from the vault on our YouTube channel. So that's basically old clips from the desk, where actually there's a few from Dave as well that's going up. I'm going to go through them and popping them all up there. So we have something up on the channel at least once a day. So no excuse not to join, and it's all free as well. So guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back next week, same time, here on nerdtoknowmedia.com, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you next week here on the Wrestling Rewind.